Hamas that started this war. It's Hamas that is continuing to hold hostages and has the ability to end it by releasing them. When it comes to this video, Hirsch should be home with his family. And we and Secretary Blinken are not going to rest a single minute until that happens, including the president, of course. Alex, on the region,
if I may.
let me see if there's anything else on Gaza specifically before we pivot to some of the broader topics. Go ahead in the back.
Does the U.S. support an investigation into the mass graves found in Gaza, an independent investigation?
So, as I said, we're continuing to ask our partners in Israel for more information. I don't have an additional assessment to offer.
So you want Israel to investigate, but not an independent?
We are asking for more information on the circumstances relating to the reporting of the mass grave, as I said to both of your colleagues when they asked this very same question. Go ahead.
So in the human rights report released on Monday, you said that Israeli government took some credible steps to identify and punish officials who may have committed human rights abuses. However, we have not seen some credible steps regarding several investigations since October 7, including the killing of Hhhhhh. I wanted to follow up on what Matt said last week. He said that you would ask for more information in light of the recent Washington Post report, which casted doubts on earlier Israeli findings. Any updates on these? Have Israelis gotten back to you?
So specifically as to what mechanisms might be in place within the Israeli system, I will let our partners in Israel speak to that about any efforts that they are undertaking. From the United States perspective, you've heard me say this before, we consistently in all conflict zones continue to assess and identify evidence, facts, situations on the ground. Those are analyzed. Those are looked through the various inputs and systems that we have to assess violations of possible human rights, and we take the process from there, and we'll make additional assessments as we need, but these are deliberative processes that are rigorous, that are detail-oriented, that are rooted in the law and rooted in facts, and they take time. I don't have anything
specifically. I'm asking about the killing of Hhhhhh. Have you asked them for more information, and have they gotten back?
I'm happy to check on this case specifically. I don't have anything from
any updates on World Central Kitchen aid workers? You were reviewing Israeli findings. Have you made an assessment?
So when it comes to the findings in the World Central Kitchen, that tragic event, you saw our partners in Israel take a number of steps when it comes to accountability measures, specifically as it relates to dismissing 3 officers and placing some additional others on probation. In light of that, we've also continued to see some steps in the right direction when it comes to humanitarian assistance, but we also continue to stress the importance, and we need to see additional steps being taken when it comes to deconfliction mechanisms and steps that they can take to protect humanitarian workers. Ambassador Satterfield spoke a great deal about that yesterday, about things like comms equipment and other ways in which steps can be taken to ensure that humanitarian workers are kept safe. And we're going to continue to press our partners in Israel for those kinds of things. I'll come back to you, Ellen. Go ahead.
Can I ask about the work being done for the findings that will be finished on May 8th? Are there any additional new investigations or inquiries being done as part of that examination of Israel?
So the National Security Memorandum is not a new process or a new policy process in which there are new standards or some sort of new thing that is applied to the countries that we have a relationship on. It is an assessment of whether we find a particular country who we have a security relationship with, whether we find their assurances to use U.S. security assistance properly, whether we find those assurances credible and viable, and that work is ongoing. When
Yeah.
it comes to ensuring that there are not violations of human rights and that U.S. assistance is being used appropriately, there are a number of processes in place that already exist within the federal government. We've
Right, I
talked a lot about
understand-
them
I
here.
understand it's the same processes and standards as before. My question is, are there any additional investigations, reviews?
It's not an
anything being
investigation,
done?
Ellen. It's
So
not
there's-
it's
so
not
you're
an
looking at the
investigation.
whole-
It is
whole
an assessment.
picture?
I don't fully understand what you are asking.
I mean, are you looking at, is there a deeper look being taken into specific
This
instances
is
in
work that is
Gaza?
already ongoing and totally separate from the National Security Memorandum. You are conflating these two very
No, I'm
separate
talking
things.
about the national
I
security.
understand. And what I'm stressing to you is what we have said from the onset since the National Security Memorandum was signed. It is not a new investigation or a new process. When it comes to ensuring the appropriate use of American security assistance and ensuring that human rights violations are not taking place, there are a number of steps that already exist within the US government that are being inputted into, that are being assessed. We are looking at the facts on the ground as we would in any conflict zone.
So you're
But I'm not
gathering
going to
new facts
speak
on the
to.
ground.
But I'm not going to speak to these ongoing deliberative process. We're not gathering new facts. This gathering of facts has been ongoing since the onset of October 7th, as it would in any conflict zone. The National Security Memorandum process is a totally separate thing. It is not an outlining. To a number of press briefings.
Right, I guess I'm saying, are you doing any additional, you've got the assurances, but how do you determine their action?
That is the work that's ongoing. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but this is the work that has been ongoing, not just in this conflict zone, but in every conflict zone on the face of this planet, where we look at the facts on the ground. We work with civil society organizations. We work through our embassies and consulates to assess what is happening on the ground. And those facts, they then are assessed and looked at further. They are examined, and they can move into various other processes as well, whether they be CHRG, whether it be a Leahy process, whether it be something else. That work is always ongoing. Go ahead in the back.
It's about Colombia.
Okay, I'm gonna come back to you at the end. Go ahead, Alex.
Staying on Iran for a while, I have a couple of other questions on Ukraine. Tomasz Salehi, very well-known dissident rapper, very well-known for his criticism of the Iranian regime, got sentenced today to death. Any reaction and any steps you guys can take to prevent this from happening?
We've seen those disturbing reports. We're talking about someone who has already faced torture and other harsh treatments in detention. This is just another example of the Iranian regime's horrific and pervasive human rights abuses. We once again condemn the Iranian regime's use of the death sentence as a tool to suppress people's human rights and fundamental freedoms. We continue to closely follow reports of Mr. Salehi's situation.
The Massa Act is now the law of the land. Can you guys give us a sense of how you're going to implement it, when, and will you be willing to directly target Iranian Supreme Leader for his gross human rights violations?
So, Alex, we continue to have a number of tools at our disposal to hold the Iranian regime accountable. The Massa and Ships Act, as you so noted, we're of course going to implement the law, but I'm not going to get ahead of the process here, and we'll wait on speaking to any of the Iran-related provisions specifically for now.
You may move to Ukraine if I may. Or
let me finish out on the region and then
please come back
to you. Go ahead.
Regarding to my side,